So this little gross thing is one of my wisdom teeth. And to just give you a quick summary of what's been happening. A couple of weeks ago, we went somewhere and I started getting a sore tooth. I didn't think much of it. I managed to have lunch quite fine. And over the course of the next day or two, my mouth started getting sore. When I opened my mouth, there was just like a big infection in there, which kind of freaked me out. So I went to the dentist, and it hurt a bit because he drained it and gave me a week of antibiotics. And that's for another story. These antibiotics were terrible. I don't know, like, as a doctor, I prescribe antibiotics to everyone, and you don't really think about the side effects that patients get from antibiotics. And let me tell you, the combination of these two antibiotics I got, very super unpleasant. And it's not something, let's just say you don't want to spend too much time distant from a bathroom because you're going to need to go. But anywho, had the antibiotics, the infection got better, and the dentist thought that it was a good idea just to have my wisdom tooth, one of them, pulled out, because he felt that because it was kind of not doing too well anyway, that it was becoming like a harbour for infection and it's going to cause recurrent problems if I left it in. So he said to come back after the end of the antibiotics and I'll pull out the tooth for you. And this is the reason I'm making this video. I'm not sure that anyone's interested in the fact that I had a wisdom tooth pulled out, but that's not the point of this video. The point of the video is I just wanted to just let you know that I had to wait a week because I had to wait for the infection to settle down. And over that week, it's kind of a reflection of the way I've been recently, and that is I was super nervous, I was super anxious, and as the week went on, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I did, unfortunately, do a little bit of Googling, which is really bad. And as a medical professional, I always advise my patients not to do a lot of Googling because it's just going to set you up for a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. Because when people put stuff on Google, they always put they give you the explanation, but they also give you the worst case scenarios. And if you focus and if you dwell on the worst case scenarios of anything, then 100% you're going to be anxious, you're going to be stressed, you're not going to sleep, and you're going to be freaked out by the time that you have to undergo whatever procedure that you're going to undergo. And that's exactly what happened. So I spent the whole week kind of messing around with my head, having a lot of stressful moments. And I've been practicing some mindfulness and trying to focus on the present rather than worrying about other stuff, but it kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. Towards the end of the week, for some reason, I felt like I was feeling a little bit more settled, a little bit more confident that things were going to be okay. I've done everything physically I could do to prepare it. I won work, I took a day off, I had some pain meds at home just in case things was going to go bad. We had some soft foods. So I was actually prepared. So there was no more point of being anxious about it because I was physically prepared for what potentially could happen. And the rest of it was just a mental game now. And the weird thing is, when you get anxious about something, everything just snowballs. You just assume the worst. And this is kind of the reflection of how I've tried to not continue to live my life that way, because yes, if you're going to focus on the negative, you're always going to see the negative. If you focus on the positive, you're going to see the positive. And even though you fear the worst, there's a very good likelihood, if you know what I mean, that things aren't going to turn out to be the worst, and you're just talking yourself into this massively hyped up anxious state, and it's no good for you. The fact is that no matter how stressed you are about it, no matter how much you think about it, no matter how much more you research it, once you've done the basic stuff of just preparing yourself and, like I said, getting your pain meds ready, getting like the food ready and organizing appropriate time off work and all that kind of stuff, there's nothing else you can do. The more you think about it, the more it's just going to fester in your brain. But realistically, there's nothing practical that you can do about it. So that's the thing. The weird thing of the whole situation is, I know that you're going to think that I'm weird when I do this, but I needed to tell myself that I had to be brave, because considering the stuff that I've seen, considering that I work as a doctor, and considering the stuff that I've seen my family go through, if you reason it out, like, it's a goddamn tooth, it's a wisdom tooth, it's not a big deal. It's not like you're having major open heart surgery or anything like that. Why are you acting like a big baby? And that's what I started telling myself. And the thing that I actually found helped, this is so weird, but the one thing that I found that helped soothe me was actually watching Lord of the Rings. I know it's one of my favorite movies. And the thing about Lord of the Rings is there's this scene in Return of the King when Aragorn, like, his people are like surrounded by orcs at Mount Doom, and it's like everyone's starting to panic, and he comes up on this horse and he says, like, this is like the best scene of the movie, where he actually says, I see in your eyes the fear that'll take the heart of me? And he continues to say, like, a day may come when the courage of man fails, we forsake our friends, and we break all bonds of fellowship. But the important part of that is, even though he acknowledges that that potentially is a problem, he says, but it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields, but it is not this day. Today we fight. And like, I know it sounds cheesy, I know it sounds corny, but it just made me feel like I just needed to be strong, I needed to be brave, and I just needed to deal with whatever the situation presents. Because if I can't handle this, how am I going to handle something that's much worse in the future, potentially? By the time I got to the dentist, I was actually in a fairly good state. It didn't help that when I got to the dentist and the dentist was running late, which is fair enough. He had some other patients and I was sitting there, and then they put me in the chair and they have a TV. Have you ever been to a dentist when there's a TV kind of above your head, so you're lying there, you're watching TV? Supposedly it's meant to relax you. In this situation, it didn't exactly relax me, because guess what was on? It was CNN, and it was all about the Middle East and the terrorism and the bombings, and that is not something that relaxes you. Let me just tell you that now. I could have asked to change the channel, but I was kind of getting a bit panicked out by then. I said to the nurse, I said, like, I'm actually quite nervous about this, and I don't know how much pain that there's going to be during it. I don't know how much pain there's going to be after it. I'm worried about the needle going to my mouth and all that, so forth. And like, when patients say that, one of the things that you shouldn't do, and this is like healthcare 101, is you don't say, oh yeah, some people do get a lot of pain and it can be quite an uncomfortable experience. Like, people don't want to hear that. People already fear that. And I don't know that that is the best way of reassuring somebody, but ultimately the dude, he put some anesthetic gel on my gum. I felt the first needle for the local, but then basically I just asked, let me know when it's done. And he said, it's already done. So basically I didn't feel anything. I was very cautious for the first few days. I did everything that the internet said I should do and what I shouldn't do, even though the dentist said, no, don't worry, just take it easy. So I went a little bit overboard, and everything so far has been okay, touch wood. It's been like almost a week now. The moral of the story, the reason I made this video, is just to say that if you have a personality which causes you to feel a lot of unnecessary anxiety and stress with situations that you cannot potentially control, all I can say to you is, once you've done all the physical preparation you can, I'm not saying you just stick your head in the sand and pretend it's fine, but once you've done a little bit of research, like proper research, not just Googling everything and finding out the worst case scenarios, once you've done the proper research and once you've physically prepared for it, like in this case with the pain meds, with the softer foods and taking a day off and making sure that there's somebody around just in case, once you've organized all that, you've just got to stop. Continually ruminating about the problem, just stressing out at the expense of, like, I had to wait a week to have this done, but that week I really was not really very functional. Like, I didn't really care about anything else because I was just selfish and I was just focused on this damn tooth that needed to be pulled out a week later. That is not the way to handle any situation. And one of the things that I've tried and I'm continuing to try and develop in myself is the ability to stop yourself when you get into this vicious circle of stress and anxiety where everything just feels like you've got no control, and your heart starts to race away, and where your palms get sweaty and you know that you shouldn't be thinking like this, but you do. So that's what I've been working on. Mindfulness, meditation, journaling, gratitude, all these things that you go, oh, not that nonsense, not that crap. It's actually not crap, because it's actually really helpful, because it helps you focus on the moment. I found that distracting myself was one of the methods. Like, in the short term, distraction is good because it just takes your mind off stuff. In the long term, you can't just stick your head in the sand and distract yourself from everything. You've just got to find better coping mechanisms to deal with situations so that you can actually handle it rather than run away. One of the things that I've been trained to do as a doctor is, when patients are sick, you've got to get right in there. You don't just stand in the back of the room and just sweat and panic, and that's not the job of a doctor. The job of the doctor is to get in there and try and save a life. Some of that has to be reflected in everyday life, because it's very easy to do this stuff to other people because it's not you. Like, it's very easy for other people to say, it's only a damn tooth, get over yourself, but it's not their tooth, it's your tooth. And it's just a matter of developing your own personalized coping mechanisms of dealing with any type of stress. Look, it's ultimately, it's a wisdom tooth, it's no big deal. There are going to be things in the world that's going to happen to you, which is going to be even less a deal, which is going to make you anxious. And on the other hand, there's going to be stuff that's going to happen to you potentially that is a much bigger deal than this. And you've also got to develop this ability to kind of, one, let things go a little bit when you need to, and also develop the coping mechanisms and the strategies to actually deal with the situation so you don't freeze. That's kind of what I wanted to say in this video. We are all going to be facing a certain level of adversity in our lives, whether it's getting a tooth pulled out, whether it's having major heart surgery, or having to fight Sauron on the slopes of Mount Doom. When you're in that situation, you've just got to do it. There's no point complaining about it. There's no point ruminating about it. There's no point stressing about it. You just got to do it. And the more we expose ourselves to fear, and the more we expose ourselves to stress, and the more we face it and deal with it rather than push it away. Because do you know what happens to fear when you keep pushing it off? So it's like you're scared of something, so you never do it. When you finally have to do it, it's 100 times worse because you put it off the last 10 times. You've developed no resistance, no coping mechanisms of any sort. One of the methods of building up your tolerance and resistance and resilience and stuff is exposing yourself gradually to stressful events so that gradually your body and your mind gradually develops this ability to cope, so that when something big happens, you already got the muscles there. You've already got that reflex, you've already got that training that's happening. And if you keep avoiding stuff, why do people have trouble with their teeth? Because they're scared of dentists, they don't want to go because they fear the pain and whatever, until something like this happens where you get a big infection and then you have no choice. And then all of a sudden you start panicking because you haven't been to the dentist for ages, because you remember in the past, whether you were a kid or whether it was last year, that you had a really bad experience at the dentist. It hurt like hell. You started gagging when they shoved that little suction thing in there. There was blood everywhere and you never want to go again. And that deters you from trying to do preventative care because you never wanted to feel that emotion again. So you stop going to the dentist, you stop looking after your teeth, and then something bad happens and all of a sudden, not only do they have to clean your teeth, they have to start pulling teeth out, and it's super bad and it's super stressful. So we've got to get ourselves in a state where we don't have to reach that kind of situation. And the way to do that is to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's all I have to say. It's like, pretty sure Aragorn was scared. Pretty sure that Frodo was scared. I'm pretty sure that Harry Potter was scared. Like, I know they're movies, but people don't do stuff because of any reason except that they have to do it no matter what. I don't remember the exact phrase. It's like people do it despite the fear because they have no other option. And this is a situation. So I hope you guys have found this video a little bit useful if you are in a situation where you're having trouble dealing with stresses, whether they're tiny stresses or whether they're huge stresses. No one else can tell you how stressful a particular situation is. It's how you perceive that situation to be. And it's very easy for us to turn these little tiny ones into bigger and bigger ones. And it just consumes you, and you've just got to do everything in your power not to let that happen because it's crap. You can waste a lot of time in your life when there is no stress, worried about the fact that there's going to be a stress later on, and it's not worth it, guys. Let me just tell you, the amount of time that I've spent wasted because I've been dreading an event that is to come, and it's either not happened or it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be, and then I kick myself like, damn it, I've wasted the last 2 weeks, 3 months stressing about the event, and it wasn't even that bad. What was I doing? What the hell was going on in there? You've got to do everything in your power to stop that from happening. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I really appreciate you guys. Leave a comment below if you have anything you wanted to say about this topic. And I know that a lot of people don't like to talk about it because it makes them almost feel like that they're weak because they're admitting their fears, but don't let that happen. If you're scared, you're scared. And sometimes you need to talk to people about it. And sometimes other people can give you a different perspective. Sometimes it's good to take the perspective of others because they may be in the right hands, in the right person. They may be able to show you that it really isn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. Anyway, that's it. Catch you next time in another video. Bye.